I've had barbecue. I had barbecue today. Nope. I'm just not doing it. I'm just not fucking doing it. I have been, no, you know why? I'm not gonna talk about it. I'm done. I'm done. I've been to every fucking goddamn barbecue mecca in the fucking American South. Every single one. I've said every name there is everywhere I go, and you're always telling me I'm wrong. There's no correct answer. Never. Not one goddamn time. So you know what? The barbecue I eat is between me and fucking God. I'm done. I know how to eat. I know how to eat. Yes, I am in the shape of an anxious gay coastal elite Jew. That's true. But my gastroenterological, whatever the fuck it's called, my meat tube could be from here.
Love it, believe it.
Please welcome the chair of the North Carolina Democratic Party, Anderson Clayton. Hi. Hi, thanks for being here. All right, let's start with the elephant in the room. Shouldn't you be at the club or something?
We are.
Well, I guess we are. Can you just, how did you became the chair of the North Carolina Democratic Party when you were 25 years old?
Indeed.
How'd that happen?
I was angry, honestly, which I think a lot of young people right now are, about the state of politics in the country. And I think that we decided, a lot of young people, some of the folks that are here in this crowd tonight, that helped us take over a state party and really, I think, make it look like what North Carolina is right now, which is representative of all of our counties in our state. We have 100 counties. We have to act like it. And we can't cede ground anywhere to a party that, quite frankly, would like to see the demise of our democracy. And so I had a really cool campaign team comprised of young folks that helped me campaign and organize across the state.
So we had Dante Pittman on the show.
Yeah.
That if you're hearing this is out on Friday, and I asked him this. I'm curious what you think about it too. Which there do seem to be this sort of these two trends taking place side by side. One is a kind of North Carolina that I think is represented by you and some young Democrats who are trying to show how this state is changing, and then you have a very extreme and anti-democratic Republican Party that seems to be reacting to a changing North Carolina, not by changing with the state, but by trying to hold on to power that it can. And can you just talk about how you navigate that?
I mean, I think we take us back. How many of you all in this room, I can't really see y'all that well, but how many of y'all are from North Carolina originally? Yeah, okay. So this is going to be a history lesson for the folks in this room. Most of y'all are not from North Carolina from what I just saw by the hands that are raised. And yeah, come on, everybody out there. Nashville, did you hear that? They're from Tennessee out there.
I heard of Tennessee.
But I think it's important to know, Democrats controlled North Carolina for 40 years in this state. And under the leadership of Governor Jim Hunt, of people like Governor Terry Sanford, Democrats that, sat down 40 years ago and they said, man, how do we take North Carolina and stop it from looking like a state like, no offense to anybody in here if you're from Mississippi, but a state like Mississippi right now. North Carolina used to be called the Rip Van Winkle state. We were asleep at the wheel in some ways. And we had Democrats that got together in leadership and said, man, how do we make this North Carolina become the new South, right? And it started with education and the prioritization on public education in the state. And so Jim Hunt was the governor that created Smart Start and the Teaching Fellows system. And you had the first public education system in North Carolina, the UNC system that was created right here. UNC Chapel Hill was the first public higher education school in the entire country, right? Like, that came from the South. And we've got to remind people of the history of the North Carolina Democratic Party, because that party is actually what built us into a place for economic opportunity, the Research Triangle Park and business, an economic mecca in some ways in the South, for transforming the identity of what a region like this can look like. And in 2010, unfortunately, when we had Republicans win on our maps in North Carolina and take over our state, it's when we started to see that regression fully take place, right? We started to see over the last 10 years the Republican Party in North Carolina try to take what Democrats, it took us 40 years to build, and it's going to take them a decade to destroy it, honestly. We're seeing the attack in our public education system and the UNC system, from them trying to take out diversity and inclusion efforts from places that look like UNC Asheville right now, unfortunately, here in your own backyard. And we're looking at the dismantling and the attack on public education, because Republicans know where Democrats have always gotten our power from in this state. And so we're running folks that are young people that look like and represent, not just young people, but new people this year in the Democratic Party in North Carolina, that can represent and bring back that vision of what a new South can look like, and that is increasing opportunity for people everywhere, right?
North Carolina also has, outside of Texas, I believe the biggest rural population in the country. And you've just been going across some of the more rural parts of this state. I sometimes think a lot of, especially national Democrats, spend more time worrying about why rural places, say, have more representation in the Senate, and less time worrying about how do we reach those places where we genuinely believe that Democratic policies, if we could get over this sort of divide over Democratic politicians, could make a big difference. What do people miss about how to campaign in rural parts of North Carolina?
90% of politics is just showing up. And this year, what you're going to see is that Democrats are going to show up all over this state. We're contesting 2022. For those of you that don't remember, 2018, we had historic wins across North Carolina. We finally broke the Republican supermajority in our state legislature. We were on the upswing in a lot of ways. And then we backslid in 2020 and in 2022. And in 2022, we lost control of our Supreme Court in North Carolina. Democrats lost our Court of Appeals. We lost up and down the ballot. Chief Justice Sherry Beasley, who should be our Chief Justice in that way, right? And should be our United States Senator for that matter, too. But she won actually 5 House seats in 2022 that we lost by 500 votes as a party. And those were in a lot of our rural counties that are outside of major metropolitan areas, or for any of you that might know the studies that have been done out of Duke University and Mac McCorkle. But countrypolitan counties like Alamance County and places like Wilson and Nash counties that hopefully Representative-elect Dante Pittman is going to be representing next year. But places like that were historically Democratic counties that we've lost our margins in. And to the point that you made earlier, North Carolina's population, 41% of our state population lives in an urban area. 59% still lives in a rural community. And that's hard for people to believe sometimes. It's easy for folks out here maybe in Buncombe County to believe, though, because and y'all aren't all Asheville in that sense. I see some Weaverville folks in here and everybody else around, out my outskirts of Asheville in that sense. But I think it's important for folks to realize that this administration is actually the first one in federal history that can say that they are investing in rural economies again. And it's something that our party needs to wear very proudly when we talk about the future of rural communities, because for a while what it looked like in this country, and especially in this state, is people were like, man, we're waiting for it's like the plane sort of needs to land itself, and we're waiting for that decline to happen in some aspects. And the pandemic really made it so that people could look at it and say, what's the rural renaissance sort of look like? What does it mean to live outside of cities and not be in one place and in one centralized location? And that gave an opportunity for all of rural North Carolina to look at it and take advantage of the American Rescue Plan funding that came into our communities, of the bipartisan infrastructure bill, of the IRA money that's coming into North Carolina right now, to say, how can we take this money and create and sustain communities here on out in our state and give people the opportunity to live anywhere? But I say that because people ask me, they're like, you're 26, why are you so excited to vote for an 80-year-old? And I'm like, this is the first person that's ever looked at a place like where I come from in North Carolina and say, man, you shouldn't have to leave it in order to make something of yourself. You should be able to sit right there in it and do that.
It's terrible.
Yeah. Say that again.
Nobody can like this guy. Nobody. I mean, he's got to be a drag on that. He's got to be a drag on some of these other statewide races. He's got to be. I mean, even Donald Trump was reluctant to endorse this guy.
Yeah.
Are you seeing that? Or is Mark Robinson being at the top of this ticket? Is that helping people understand just how extreme this version of the Republican Party has become?
Yes. But I'd also like to say that he is still the current sitting lieutenant governor, right? I think a lot of people nationally we've seen, and especially folks that are in this state know, we've seen a lot of people come to terms with who Mark Robinson is over the last couple of months. North Carolina Democrats have known who he is over the last 2 years, over the last 4 years, right, of seeing what he's done in Raleigh. But I think that the fact is that he's been elected statewide once in North Carolina. And so the threat is real, right? Donald Trump has won this state twice, right? The threat of that is real. And what we need every single person in this room to do is recognize that threat, but recognize also the opportunity that you have to defeat that threat in November. And that looks like making sure that you're talking to your networks about this election. And I challenge every single one of you. I don't know about how many of y'all got family or friends that may have voted for the other side in an election cycle past. I know I do. And one of the hardest conversations to have is with those folks in your life that may disagree with you about politics. But this election cycle is not going to be won on a phone screen or on a television screen. It's going to be won in our church pews, in the grocery store lines, in the places that we're going to find other people. And I hope that all of you leave here tonight challenging yourself to go out there and talk to somebody that may disagree with you about Mark Robinson. Because Republicans need to understand that the North Carolina Chamber of Commerce has called this man bad for business. A historically Republican, honestly, organization, right, is saying that we know that Mark Robinson is not good for this state, actually. We need sensible public servants in leadership in North Carolina, and that looks like our Attorney General Josh Stein right now, right?
So you're talking about persuading people who might want to vote for Republican. Can you talk a little bit about persuading people who might not want to vote at all, especially young people? I mean, we hear this is true all across America that a lot of what's going to happen in November is going to hinge on reaching a younger and more cynical and frustrated group of voters. Can you talk a little bit about that, especially because you and I are both Gen Z, and
You gave yourself away by saying that like that, John. I'm not going to lie to you.
We're both Generation Z.
I understand the frustration. I mean, that's part of the reason why I'm here. And I think right now people need to recognize young people are 60% more likely to turn out to vote if there's a young person on the ballot, regardless of what political affiliation they hold right now. We crave representation in politics. And I think that there's a level of our sort of coming into our political, I think about any marginalized group in politics right now, and what I would say is that first comes representation and the desire for it, and then comes that second level of it when you actually realize, like, maybe the people that are representing me that look like me don't actually represent my values as a person, and they may not represent my interests as a person. And young people, to me, are right at that step of, like, we need representation right now. We're looking at a system that we can't find ourselves in, that doesn't see us. And, I joke with Congressman Maxwell Frost is a really good friend of mine, and it's sort of a joke with us because I'm like, I don't know another state party chair, another member of Congress that actually sit down and chat with each other and hang out with each other outside of the workplace that they're in. But it's both because we're young and we've gravitated to each other in this space. And a lot of that has to do with the fact that we both really fought to get where we were. Maxwell Frost ran in a primary against 14 other people or 13 other people, and made himself he was an Uber driver for his entire time that he was running for office or running for Congress. And I fought against a political machine in order to get here. And I think that people need to realize not every young person is going to want to fight to be in a role like this, unfortunately. And I know that's hard to realize from generations that are sitting in this room before me right now that have had to fight for everything that they've gotten. And I realize that. But I think that in some ways we're still coming up in that, like, we are experiencing the first rights that are being taken away from our generation right now, and the fight that we have to get into that. But I think that for young people that feel discouraged about the top of the ticket, I would say don't punish the top of the ticket or don't punish the bottom of the ballot for the top of the ticket in that sense too. I know that there are some people that are very, that they don't see themselves coming out to vote this year. And our state legislature, I hope all of you are watching what's going on in Raleigh right now. I know you're 3.5, 4 hours away from it and it can feel impossible. But right now our state legislature this last year took money. And I'm sorry, I'm rambling on this one, but there is a church, there's a pastor in Monroe, North Carolina, a pastor that is giving right now $3 million from the state legislature for a school that he's running out of his church. And he was standing up the other day on the pulpit, or not the other day, but a few months ago on the pulpit, and he said, if I'm on a jury and a woman is wearing a skirt and she gets raped, and sorry for not putting a trigger warning on that, but that she gets raped, and that this person, I would believe that this person should be able to walk free because of what this woman was wearing. And I bring you all that story because I'm like, I don't think people understand that this election cycle to me is not about Joe Biden or Donald Trump. It's about common decency and honestly the demise of the world that we live in right now. Like, it is about what type of future do you want young people to walk around in and young women to walk around in. And I don't know about y'all, but I don't want to be fearful of the people that are in positions of power. And that's what Donald Trump is. He's fearful to me. And I want a president, I want a leader of this country that I can believe in, that I have hope in, that makes me feel protected in right now. And I don't think anybody feels protected under a Donald Trump presidency, a Mark Robinson governorship, or anyone else down the ballot, a Dan Bishop attorney generalship, someone that tried to pass HB2 in North Carolina, right? The bathroom bill. We're looking at a Republican Party right now that fundamentally doesn't believe in human decency or human rights, and that's what we're fighting for. And if you don't want to vote this year, if you don't want to vote for that this year, then you need to take a deep internal look at yourselves too.
Good. Good. Anderson, it's clear to me that millennials have a lot to learn from Gen Z. Except on pant width. You guys are going down a road I cannot follow when it comes to pants. And I wish you all well in your endeavors. So I've called us here together for a segment we're calling Chat GPZ. Ugh. As a gesture of goodwill and personal humiliation, I am now going to attempt to define the following Gen Z slang without preparation, without knowing what they are, just out here, vulnerable, and of an age where I really should start taking a daily multivitamin. So I don't have the you're in charge. You're taking us through this.
No, I got this.
My cards are really blacked out. They're genuinely blacked out. I don't have...
Could you please define the word based for me?
Based.
Based.
So, I think it's good. Well, I feel like there was a moment where bass was bad, but then based is good. It is like, it's like it's not cringe.
Okay, final answer, it's not cringe. Okay.
Is that
it's
right?
Awesome.
It's awesome.
It's
yeah,
awesome.
Okay, I got that. Then
An
I'm right.
example, Gen Z hates them, but I personally think using way too many exclamation points is based.
All right.
Okay, this one, I gotta make a note to this one. It says, please define the phrase hit different. I know it means hits different.
It's different.
Hits different.
Look at right. Hits different. I mean,
It hits different.
doesn't it just mean that something hits different? I mean, no, but that
It does mean that, yes.
Here's what I would say that like
Do you need me to use it in a sentence? I
no,
can't.
I know I can use it in a fucking sentence. Boy, I mean, my sentence is gonna be so embarrassing is the problem. I mean, like the bad example, right, would be like, when you haven't had a Fountain Diet Coke in a long time, and then you have one on a really hot day, it just hits different.
Yeah, like when North Carolina goes blue.
Yeah, when North Carolina
goes blue, it's just gonna hit
right,
different.
like a Democratic governor winning is a great thing, but when you defeat Mark Robinson, it just hits different.
Yeah. Please define the word ick.
Well, so ick is something where it basically is at any point you may reveal something about yourself, at which point you lose your partner. You've worn socks incorrectly, you've eaten a sandwich weird, you chew weird, you make a sound or something, and that's it, you're fucking dead. You've given the ick. It's actually a chilling idea.
I don't know that these are hard enough for John. All
Yeah.
right, please define the word mid.
Oh, well, It's just mediocre. Just
Yeah.
mid, just mediocre. I know what mid is. I thank you. Well, this honestly, like, what do you all think of me? Unbelievable.
All right, your last
feel-
one. Riz.
Well, I know. Riz is charisma.
There you go.
It's just Riz. Although it's,
Look, he might be a Gen Z. Who knows?
I'm just a lurker on TikTok. I'm just a lurker on the internet. I feel a bit on TikTok like I do if I try to enter an Urban Outfitters. It's like I don't belong here. This is not a space for me. I felt that when I turned 40, I really did feel like walking into an Urban Outfitters is like a vampire going into a home into which they weren't invited. Like I have to get out or I'll start to bleed from my ears. Do you know?
I don't know how you made it till 40. Forever 21 feels weird now that I'm 26, to be real. So.
Oh wow,
Oh,
wow,
God.
that's hard to hear.
Oh.
That's hard to hear.
Give it up for Jon Lovett, everybody.
All right, Anderson Clayton, where can people go if people are not? So I just want you to do a plug for if people are in North Carolina, what can they do? And then for people listening at home who aren't from North Carolina, what's the most helpful thing they can do?
Absolutely. Look, Flip NC is outside. We are working so hard to make sure that we are taking back our North Carolina Supreme Court races. It is the long haul in North Carolina, so y'all need to buckle up, get your walking shoes on, and even after 2024, you don't need to take them off, let me just tell you, because we've got a Republican supermajority to break this year, a governor's office to hold this year, a Supreme Court seat to hold this year, and you can do all of that with us by going to ncdp.org, getting involved. We've got canvases going every single weekend, door knocking, phone banking that's happening. What we had when Barack Obama first won our state in 2008 was the most excitement and energy on the ground. We had people everywhere across this state talking to folks. And that's what we're going to do this year with the North Carolina Dems. The other thing I will tell you, and the other website to plug, realmarkrobinson.com, for anybody that you have that may not be here tonight, couldn't maybe afford a ticket to the show, or just couldn't join you for it in that way. They can still learn all about this show and learn all about Mark Robinson on realmarkrobinson.com, and making sure it's got an opposition website. It's got everything that the man has ever said. He really is a hateful person, and we don't need someone like that leading North Carolina, folks. So thank you for being here.
Anderson Clayton, everybody.